Hello everyone and welcome back to IMO Reviews. Yes, we are getting into the swing of Halloween as we discuss William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist. Directed by William Friedkin and starring Ellen Burstyn, Linda Blair, Max von Sydow, Lee J. Cobb, and Jason Miller. The Exorcist is an adaptation of William Peter Blatty's novel of the same name, in which a young girl called Regan is possessed by the devil Pazuzu, forcing Father Karras and Merrin to perform an exorcism. The film hit cinema screens with a bang in the winter of 1973, after a myriad of troubles in production. Warner Brothers had almost lost their faith entirely in the product, finding it crass and unsellable without an A-list actor attached. Actors were injured, sets caught fire, with rumours quickly circulating that William Friedkin was firing guns on set and even slapping some of his actors. Warner Brothers insisted on a limited release for a film that they seemed frankly embarrassed by. That was until those lucky few people who got to see the film not only fainted or fled in reaction to the movie, but spread the word of what quickly became known as the scariest movie of all time. The film went on to be banned in several countries, including the UK. I find it near impossible to believe that it wasn't cleared until 1999. For the first 5 years of my life, The Exorcist was still deemed to be too much for the average audience. But does The Exorcist still live up to that lofty title it was once given? Well, let's find out. Starting with the positives and what has to be my favourite aspect of The Exorcist. I find the sound design of this movie to be absolutely top tier, and it's not just its iconic theme, which actually is not relied upon half as much as you think it might be, which only goes to prove my point. The Exorcist understands how to manipulate sound to its advantage, to turn it into an assault on your senses. It discombobulates you and leaves you in a constant state of unknowing, which is where the tone and atmosphere is truly achieved. It's so subtly weaved at times that you won't even notice it. How many of you notice the Arabic chanting as the title cards appear? Now, I'm no linguist, but I'm pretty confident what they are saying translates to God is great, which is immediately planting that religious, spiritual seed right in the title cards. You may not have noticed it, but your senses definitely did. And this assault of audio ranges from quiet, natural, believable sound to uncomfortably loud and screaming, which again cuts back to something quieter. It's all about the contrast. It's purposely the wrong way round. The young girl has the voice of an old man, even making quite disturbing but believable animal sounds, as if an animal is in pain, which again, we can only naturally take on board and react to. I mean, even the demon's speech is in reverse. It's so unsettling by nature in just its craft alone. I truly believe that you could close your eyes and just listen to The Exorcist, and it will still shake you to your core. The cinematography is simple but effective. It says so much with its framing alone. The way Merrin and the statue of Pazuzu is almost presented like a Western showdown, it gives you all the subtext that this scene requires. Another nod to the sound design in this moment as the bells ring and the dogs fight. It understands what noises are unsettling to the human mind. It also understands what imagery is unsettling, again delivering such wonderful blink and you'll miss it details with top tier editing throughout. It's such a subliminal film. You don't always know why you're uncomfortable or on the edge with this movie. You just know that you are. And for me, it is this act of subtlety that achieves it. It's quite ironic because it's almost as if a spirit is doing these tricks to you. You are taking it in without even noticing that you are. Whether it be the blink and you'll miss it demon faces that are pitted throughout the film, or the unexpected cuts to Karras' mother, which always brings that weight of guilt with it. The Exorcist doesn't scare you by going boo and having a big jolt of music behind it. It scares you by keeping you in the dark, keeping you suspicious that something nasty is coming, along with the occasional breadcrumb to piece together a haunting idea of what might happen off screen.
You know what she did? Your daughter.
On top of that, it's a film that isn't afraid to go there. The very fundamentals of the plot is that a child is at risk. Characters die, adding an immediate weight and sense of danger as well as consequence, however it might come around. All with a very nasty undercurrent of sexual depravity, whilst everyone trying to fix the situation is just as clueless and helpless as the audience is, which brings such a realism and believability to The Exorcist. In fact, it's been reported that most of those people that fainted when The Exorcist came out actually fainted at a lot of the hospital scenes. Because A, there's quite a lot of them and it is a grueling experience, you absolutely feel what Regan's being put through, but some of the tests that Regan are being put through are just kind of harrowing and disgusting. She's got tubes coming out of her neck and blood spurting out, and it's also loud and mechanical. It feels unhuman. It doesn't feel warm. The characters feel fleshed out, like they have their own lives and their own problems. And again, the characters are very cleverly contrasted against each other, pitting ideas against each other. It puts science up against faith. It puts doubt up against belief. And in asking such spiritual questions, the audience can't help but take it on board personally and consider it themselves in their own ideas of religion and their own spirituality. Just helps bring the audience and the film even tighter together. You really are going along for the ride on this one. And also adding to that realism is the makeup and the practical effects, which are also doing a huge portion of the heavy lifting here. Of course, it's absolutely no news to anybody that Regan's makeup is outstanding, but I'm honestly more impressed by the makeup on Max von Sydow. His old age makeup looks so good that I honestly thought that's just what he looked like. No wonder the man hasn't aged a day. We've all been fooled. And yes, there were quite a few injuries caused by these effects, but for me it is the fact that it is a real effect, that it is really happening, that just sells the believability to another level. It makes it tangible and it makes it relatable. You can very easily imagine your own reaction to walking into your child's bedroom and seeing them flailing back and forth like Linda Blair is. You'd be freaked out. And CGI just can't capture that in the same way. I don't know what it is, but our brains can just see through it. But not here, when Regan is retching up green sick. I believe she's retching up green sick, even though I've seen the behind the scenes and know that there's a pump pushing out pea soup. It's just so much more convincing and so much more alarming. The stars truly did align for The Exorcist in many ways. It just wouldn't be what it is if everybody wasn't putting their absolute all into this. By all accounts, William Friedkin was a total maniac on the set, but being in white hot form off the back of his Oscar win with The French Connection, he was firing on all cylinders when it came to this movie, and he directed the hell out of it. He may have gone too far in places, using practices that will definitely get you fired by today's standard, but he managed to get what he needed out of every single person working on this film. The sets are incredible, the makeup is incredible, the music is incredible, the performances are incredible. I find it absolutely jaw-dropping every time I hear that Linda Blair was only 12 years old when making this film. And Ellen Burstyn's emotional range is just absolutely fantastic. You really do feel her exhaustion and desperation as she's put through this emotional ringer. And Jason Miller, being a first-time actor, funnily enough, he was perfect for the role of Father Karras. He just perfectly resembles a conflicted man on the edge of breaking at any minute, and yet that ever so forced smile and natural kind soul that he has keeps him together despite his crumbling faith and sinking guilt. I'm not kidding, his expression alone tells you that and more. That's how perfect he is for this. It's like he was born to do it. But as much as I adore The Exorcist, I do have to be fair and consider its faults. And you might be surprised to hear that I do have two, one of which is very conditional. I watched the director's cut. I do think it is the better cut of the film. There's more faces and scares, you get the spider walk, and it does offer a little bit more detail to the story and the characters. But in the director's cut, we do get an ever so slightly different opening. It cuts between Iraq and Georgetown, and I think it just does it one time too many. It gets a little bit jumbled and it does throw you off ever so slightly. But this only happens in the director's cut, so it's far from disastrous. And my other issue with The Exorcist, again, feels kind of pointless, but I'll mention it nonetheless. Ellen Burstyn's character being an actress, I do get it. I get that you're trying to suggest that this woman has a lot of pulling power and money, and it still doesn't get her any success in this scenario. But it just feels very irrelevant by the end of the film. I don't feel like it really holds a narrative through line. You start at the beginning where you get to see her doing her scenes and she's having a party with the director and so on. But the more we start getting into Regan and the scares and Father Karras, that aspect of the story really does start to feel like that bag of food shopping that you left at the supermarket, and typically you only remember it when you get back home. I've seen this movie 100 times now, and even I still forget that that is an aspect of this movie, but they really are the only two very small issues that I have with this masterpiece. I don't think The Exorcist will ever be topped. It is the definitive exorcism movie, no matter how many get miserably churned out. I do personally think it is the best horror movie ever made, with Texas Chainsaw Massacre getting a very humble silver medal. And if you can't tell, I am absolutely going to give The Exorcist an 11 out of 10, making it the latest inductee into the IMO Hall of Fame.